Are we up and running?
Yes, we are. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. This is the Apply to AI Association's talk on AI and PR. It's 12:01. We'll just give folks another minute to join.
Yeah. And you know what, while we're waiting for other people to join, for the people who are already on here, I'll just sort of share a little bit about the Apply to AI Association. The Apply AI Association is really focused on creating a global organization that informs how people can use AI in a very practical sense. And so we put on these panel discussions as a way of giving people insights on what's happening in the world, how it's being applied, and how to really drive value in your own organizations. You know, the truth of the matter is the lifeblood of the Applied AI Association is our global presence, but it's also our local chapters. And so there's sometimes where we do global events, there's sometimes where we do chapter events that are online, and other times where we do local chapter events. This is a Charlotte chapter event that's going to be, sort of showcased globally. And the core value of the association is to make sure that members have access to these type of events, to the networking and the collaboration, to be able to really enhance their deployment of AI and their network in this world. Right now, we currently have 16, 17 chapters and tech hubs around the world, and we're looking to grow to about 60 chapters. And so this is sort of where we're kicking off from here. I'm going to stop talking about the Applied AI Association. If you're interested, please go to the Applied Association website, look at it, and let me know if you guys want to have, for the viewers to join as members. Happy to have you. From here, I'm going to drop out, Billy, and give it to you guys. You put together a great panel. I'll let you introduce the folks and take us from here.
Thanks, Pablo. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining today. Welcome to the discussion on the role of AI in public relations and communications, presented by the Applied AI Association. I'm William Lewis. I'll be your moderator for the session. As members of this group, you're likely well aware that AI is reshaping both the business and creative landscapes, and the fields of public relations, communications, and marketing are no exceptions. When applied thoughtfully, AI has the potential to unlock powerful efficiencies, creativity, and insights, but without the right strategy, it can just as easily introduce confusion or missteps. Our goal today is to explore how communications professionals can use AI effectively and responsibly, maximizing impact, navigating misinformation, and staying ahead of the curve as tools continue to evolve. We'll examine where AI excels, where it still falls short, and what's coming next. We'll wrap up the hour with a Q&A, so feel free to drop your questions in the chat throughout. We'll save time at the end to answer as many as we can. We're fortunate to have a brand, an agency, and a technology perspective joining us today, which I think should make for an interesting discussion. To kick things off, I'd like to introduce our first panelist, Brendan Lee. Brendan is an accomplished communications leader with experience across top sports, media, technology, and finance organizations. He currently serves as Director of Corporate Communications at Yahoo. After Brendan, we'll hear from Matt Dugan. Matt is Senior Director of Data at Muckrack, the leading provider of AI-powered PR software. In his role, he oversees teams of engineers furthering insight and delivery architectures across Muckrack's various AI data-powered platforms. He manages customer activity and workflow data to assist PR teams in harnessing data effectively to maximize outputs using AI. Closing us out, we'll hear from Rob Davis. Rob is Chief Digital Innovation Officer at MSL Group. While with MSL, Rob has been named to PR Week Dashboard 25 3 times and Provoke Media Innovator 25. He currently serves as Digital Co-Chair for PR Council. First, Brendan Lee will be sharing some best practices for using AI tools. Brendan, why don't you kick us off when you're ready?
Thanks, Billy. Let's bring up the slides.
Sure thing. Just a minute.
Thanks so much. All right. Thanks so much for having me. I'm Brendan, with a director on the Corp Comms team at Yahoo. Yes, that Yahoo, and we're 30 years thriving. You likely met Yahoo a long time ago on a desktop computer via dial-up internet, or like me in my elementary school computer lab typing in yahooligans.com, or later introduced to Yahoo when I was dominating my middle and high school friends in the early versions of Yahoo Fantasy Football. Over multiple decades, we've evolved. We still play a significant role in helping people communicate or find the information they're looking for when they come online. And it's a lot of people at that. Today, over 90% of the US internet population, and that's hundreds of millions of people, visit a Yahoo site monthly and include Yahoo in their daily habits. Within all of those products, the impact of generative AI is already apparent. Most of these products and features quite simply wouldn't have been possible to build for our customers until just recently. Beyond product innovation, this pace has also rapidly increased for comms and marketing professionals. I recently chatted with a reporter who shared that there's no such thing as an AI beat anymore. Everything is an AI beat, and every reporter is covering it. Simply pitching your version of an AI product is like pitching your website back in 2003. It's just not special. As PR professionals, we should think about AI in the same way. AI is no longer a differentiator in our field. It's the price of admission. The good news is many communicators have already purchased that ticket. 3 out of every 4 PR pros are already incorporating AI into their daily workflow. We're also applying it with more tasks and seeing increasing adoption. Take a look at this chart. It's notable that the comms industry is adopting AI at a faster rate than our peers in many other functions. Take a look at how far ahead we are in PR. Even in IT, a field you would expect that should be leading this revolution. Their professionals, only 67% of them have prioritized the implementation of AI over the next year or so. Just last week, the freelancing platform Upwork released new research highlighting the human-AI relationship, saying in part, AI is now a teammate, not just a tool. And workers are starting to bond with AI more than each other. According to Upwork, 85% of those that are most productive with AI report they're more polite to AI than the people around them, and 79% say that AI is more polite to them. Now, I know I'm likely to give a side eye here or there, but I think my colleagues will still tell you I'm fairly polite. So AI and PR are in a hot and steamy midsummer relationship. How do we ensure that AI is not eliminating us, nor are we replacing each other either? That's what I'm here to share with you. We think about how AI augments creative and strategic PR. We emphasize integration, not substitution, and we ensure the preservation of authenticity and trust. At Yahoo, we believe in using AI to enhance scale and efficiency while prioritizing strategy, authenticity, and trust. This guides us as we navigate the rapidly evolving AI landscape and integrate generative AI thoughtfully into our work. Generative AI can help communications teams move more quickly with the what, but it's crucial not to lose the sight of the fact that everything needs to begin with the foundation of strategy, audience, and the why. And building that foundation still requires human-level contextual understanding, judgment, and empathy. Our CCO, Sona Ilif Moon, and her leadership team have made it a priority to pilot AI tools. We are surgical in our approach and how we operate as a comms team, and that includes utilizing the tools available. But using AI isn't just a strategy. This is baked into our annual goals. It was the focus of a recent offsite agenda. It's a core part of a colleague's role. And just yesterday, our 25-person global comms team participated in what we called an AI day. It was one dedicated day where we had no meetings, no distractions. It was for our comms team to play in the AI sandbox. We hit pause on the usual comms chaos to explore, experiment, and to get hands-on with AI. This was all in service to pushing our team to evolve, get better, and ultimately drive results for Yahoo. And the foundation of our approach to AI lies within the principles that I'm going to share with you, and they guide how we augment storytelling with AI at Yahoo. First, we use generative AI for scale, not strategy. AI can help communicators move faster and create more, but it can't define what matters. Of course, with speed comes risk, especially to credibility and trust. Without a clear strategy, strong judgment, and deep audience understanding, we risk generating noise instead of impact. AI can help scale the work, but setting the direction, that's still on us. Next, human review is not optional. It's essential, always. Generative AI can make anyone sound like an expert, but sounding credible isn't the same as being credible. These tools still get things wrong, and when they do, the risk to trust is real. We're in a world where AI-generated content often passes as human, but for employees, customers, stakeholders, and the press, nothing builds trust like hearing from real people and their real voice. Your judgment is the last and most important filter for accuracy, tone, and truth. Next, let's focus on the communications that matter most. Instead of using AI to communicate about everything to everyone, it's more important than ever to stay focused on refining only the most important communications. Try using AI to help our audiences find the signal in the noise rather than creating more noise. And lastly, be a first mover. It's really exciting to be part of a team that has embraced the unknown. Why not be an early adopter and help write the playbook? AI won't replace humans, but dare I say, the humans who know how to use AI well, they might. Since there is no universal playbook, let's talk about a few ways we're learning and growing. We're using tools like ChatGPT, Claude, Grammarly, and LinkedIn's writing assistant to generate and refine copy more quickly. AI also plays a valuable role in media interview preparation and follow-up. For instance, Otter AI provides real-time transcriptions, summaries, and even analysis on the effectiveness of our messaging during the interview to help us plan for future interviews or to follow up with the reporter afterwards. Claude and ChatGPT help us anticipate tough questions based on reporter or industry coverage, and then evaluate the effectiveness of our message after the fact. And after an article runs, you can ask Claude or another assistant to help analyze the story. Sometimes it's fun to put them side by side and see how they vary and how they analyze the same story. We recently started using Signal AI for real-time media monitoring, and we're also exploring using the platform's reputation and media impact insights for forecasting and to become more surgical in developing our long-term communication strategy. We even use Signal's trend forecasting to confirm some of our recent panel opportunities at Cannes. And because Comms at Yahoo also includes our award-winning internal comms group, I have to shout out the team who've implemented AI in various ways to help our employees stay informed and work more efficiently. We use Glean to make it easy for employees to access internal documentation across apps like Slack and Jira. They use Axios HQ to produce internal newsletters and training communications. Since adopting Axios HQ, our internal and comms team has been able to produce weekly newsletters more efficiently. Some of their open and click-through rates are incredibly high, up to 84% depending on the audience. And then while this isn't a comms-specific one, I also wanted to share a project our HR team rolled out. You'll see on the bottom graphic that they created an AI helper integrated directly into Slack that can answer simple HR-related questions based on internal documentation. Since its launch last year, the HR bot has helped employees get answers to basic questions faster, freeing up time for the HR team to focus on more complicated inquiries. All that time freed up can be spent on things that people are good at or enjoy. So how do we communicators avoid being replaced or avoid being called out for not being authentic? Relationships, team building, and creativity. Those things remain fundamental to our work and will always need to be human first. The same is true with strategy. Nothing will surpass human instincts and intuition. For key audiences like employees, consumers, corporate stakeholders, and press, there's no substitute for hearing directly from people leading our company and driving the work every day. Their voices, perspectives, and authenticity are what truly build meaningful connections. There's no substitute for hearing directly from company leaders. Their voices, perspectives, and authenticity is truly what builds meaningful connections. Ironically, generative AI has the ability to make anyone sound like an expert on anything. Yet, it's also essential to remember that AI can make mistakes, and that rigorous human review is more critical than ever to ensure accuracy, credibility, and trust. To get things right, we need to move forward with the right balance of humanity and technology. It's not enough to ask, can AI do this? We have to ask, should AI do this? AI is making it easier than ever to create more communications, but quantity doesn't equal impact when it comes to communicating effectively with your audience. Prioritizing the most essential messages is crucial. We need to avoid information overload. AI can help scale content creation, but human judgment is key to ensuring we don't overwhelm audiences with information that dilutes our message. So when shouldn't we use AI? During high stakes or emotionally charged moments, such as layoffs, crises, or executive transitions. These situations require empathy, not something that sounds auto-generated. When we're refining leadership voice and tone, that just has to come from a human, and anything that could leak or shape how the outside world perceives us. So things like strategic shifts, restructurings, pre-IPO positioning, that needs real judgment, awareness of context, timing, and risk. So how do we use AI to elevate our work in public relations while still being human? Start small, use AI for support roles, not lead roles. Create internal guidelines for brand voice, ensure cross-functional collaboration, and encourage continual feedback and iteration. And remember, use AI for scale, protect trust, focus on what matters, and be a first mover. Future Forward PR is a collaboration where human insight meets machine intelligence. AI can sharpen our message, but it can't replace our voice. Thank you. Billy, back to you.
That's great. Really insightful, lots of concrete applications, and it was really nice to hear about a lot of the uses at Yahoo that you guys already have in place. So that really, really helpful stuff there, Brendan. Next, we have Matt Dugan talking about some places where AI is already really useful, some of the current pitfalls of AI, and maybe some of the steps where AI maybe isn't as useful, but maybe where it could be useful next. Matt, over to you.
Perfect. Thanks, Billy. And Brennan set me up well. He ended with that section of, don't ask the question, can AI do this, but should it do this? Maybe that's an even better title of my talk too. So perfect segue. Thank you, Brendan. Hey, everybody. Nice to chat. My name is Matt Dugan. I'm Senior Director of Data at Muckrack. I'm kind of coming to you from a little bit more of the sort of technologist angle, although of course still, finding my home here in the communications and PR space. So I'd like to start with a bit of a rhetorical question, or take a few seconds to think about it. Last time you opened up either ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, whatever your tool of choice is these days, you reflect on what you asked it, or even maybe if you have a great memory, or you can even pull it up. But think of the last 3 or 4 things that you asked the system to do. And part of what I'm going to talk about today is giving you guys all a few tools to analyze what exactly you're asking these AIs to do. Like Brendan said, that some studies have come out. We have relationships with these tools, which is almost funny to say. But so I want to help you coach. I'm a relationship coach. How can you get the most out of this relationship? So take a second, just take another 10 seconds to think about what were the last couple threads that you had back and forth with one of these systems. And what I'm going to ask you to do next is sort of think about categorizing it. Are you asking the system for advice? Are you asking the system to compare things? Are you asking it something where there's a factual, objective answer? These are 6 categories that I use and I kind of think about to kind of represent, the different categories that a prompt or a conversation with an AI can fall into. Now, of course, are there more categories? Sure, you could slice it different ways. Do these overlap a little bit? Sure, they overlap a little bit. But, I think broad strokes, for me, these represent 6 different buckets. So just to quickly overview, right? We have event updates. That's something like, hey, what's the latest thing going on with the legality of AI in Europe? Advice, hey, should my brand comment on this news story? Step-by-step instructions, hey, I need to get some government data. How do I submit a FOIA request? Comparison, is Threads or Twitter X better? Fact lookup, who's the president of the United States? Who owns the Washington Post? These sorts of questions. And then creative content, right? This one I think we've all dabbled in quite a bit. Write me some copy, write a catchy headline, that sort of thing. As Brendan said, maybe steer away from, help me tell my team that an executive leader is moving on, but still lots of good legitimate use cases for creative content. So I'm going to guide you through how I think about these frameworks and how these sort of categories of prompts impact where the AI is likely to succeed and maybe struggle and where it will improve in the future. So the first paradigm that I want to introduce is training data versus reference data. So I'm sure all of you who have dabbled with ChatGPT or Gemini lately have found that these systems are often citing news articles. I think actually we're going to talk a little bit more about citing news articles later in the talk. But this is common. This is what I call reference data. This is something where behind the scenes, the AI is taking your prompt. It's going to search the web. It's going to find relevant documentation to the query that you entered. And then it's going to spit out an answer based on what it read in that reference data. There's also the idea of training data, which is like more of a one-time dump of data. Like, ChatGPT gets retrained, they make version 3.5 or version 4. Each of these has one static set of training data. Oftentimes, I think we've been reading about this in the news. All the books, all the newspapers, all the Reddit posts, everything from all over the internet in multiple languages to help this thing understand how to think and how to speak. So the pro of training data is there's a lot of it. It's already sort of like inside the model. But it can lead to hallucinations. That's actually one of the main reasons why we see these models leaning more on reference data, is if a model can cite a reputable news source or a reputable web page and can kind of regurgitate that answer, all of a sudden it doesn't have to just string words together anymore. It can sort of cite a real life news source. And so what that means is, as you guys are navigating using these apps, you should be very conscious of whether or not the thing is out there looking at the web. If you don't see a citation, you should assume that it's not searching the web. If you don't see a citation, you should assume that it's just generating answers from its one-time static training data. And that's very important because some of the models will warn you, hey, you asked me a question about a recent event, I'm not able to comment on that. But some won't. And so I'm kind of here to warn you that if you ask it a question that's based on what you think, like, hey, I'm really wishing this AI would cite a news source, or I really want the AI to go kind of get some opinions from Reddit. And if it's not able to scrape the web, search the web in real time based on your query, then you might be disappointed in the results. So again, I'll touch on that a little bit more. I just wanted to introduce the idea of this one-time training data, which can be susceptible to hallucinations or, the model kind of lying to you, as Brendan talked about, confidently being wrong, versus reference data, which is a nice innovation that have lately, enabled the models to be a little bit more truthful. The next paradigm I want to talk about is context. I think I gave an example like, write a good press release for me. Well, what does it mean to be a good press release? Like, that's a very subjective thing. I might find, well, what you should really know is that the broader goals of my company are to do X, Y, Z. Our 5-year plan is that one day we want to be seen as an innovator in ABC space. If I don't type that in, like, that's something I know, that's something my boss knows, that's something all of our coworkers know, that's the context that we all feel. But if I just say, hey, write me a good press release, the model doesn't know that. And so context is another sort of important paradigm to think about when we're thinking about when is a model going to succeed, when is an AI not going to succeed. So to go right off the bat, I think, again, these are a little bit of sweeping generalizations. So of course there's exceptions to every rule, but I want to give you guys something to kind of latch onto. These AI systems tend to perform best when there are the information is static and well known, right? Let's say maybe we don't need these live web searched news sources yet. There's structure or clear rules, or it can kind of take known patterns that it's found in its training data and kind of kludge them together and give you a nice output. That tends to be successful in these sort of step-by-step instructions, creative content. That's something where it's a little bit more subjective. We don't need the latest news. We don't need like a highly reputable news source to bank our answer off of. These cases, by and large, you're going to get good results from an AI. Now, of course, as Brendan said, always, give it the human oversight as well. I'm absolutely a huge proponent of that as well. But these cases tend to be pretty successful today. As far as where we are today, you can run into a little bit of trouble in these cases if you're not careful. So as I mentioned, many models do have web search enabled by default these days. And I do think we're going to see more of that in the future, but many don't. So be very careful about asking questions about recency or, the way the world works today. The model literally might not know. So be careful about that. Also, comparative evaluations. Remember how I said these models can be prone to hallucination, but they will confidently answer you. If you ask it to compare two things, it'll do it, but it might just pull concepts out of thin air. Again, this is where the AI providers are hoping to gain more, truth and reputable answers by letting it cite sources. But you need to, the onus is on you to make sure that it's citing reputable sources. And of course, advice and opinion seeking, no different from a friend. If you were to ask a friend for their advice, how reputable are they? Like, sometimes friends give you good advice, sometimes they don't. So I think the two things that, going back to my context setting pieces, where we're going to see these AI systems improve a lot in the future, reference data. In the next couple of years, these models are going to be much better, faster, exhaustive in getting lots more and more reference data immediately when you send your query to help it answer. The AI vendors, they know that the reference data is their key to getting trustworthy answers to you and to us. And so we're going to see the models all improve at their ability to get quick reference data to help answer your questions. And context. Whether we like it or not, I think these, chatbot systems are going to move from being just a little chat window in a browser to something that maybe knows more about your emails, maybe knows more about your company goals, maybe knows more about your own personal career goals, maybe knows more about what your competitors are up to. The more context that these models get, the more you won't have to physically type in all these things that you know internal to you. So given the fact that in the next couple of years, we're going to see more reference data, we're going to see more context, what does that mean for the types of areas that are going to succeed more in the future? This is an incredibly busy chart. I don't expect, I'm not going to read through this. It's just meant to give you ideas. If you want to screenshot it, great. These are the types of areas where, we are going to see the AI succeed today based on the technology that's available today. Maybe somewhat spotty reference data, more reference data in the future. As long as you are being comfortable with entering as much context as you can possibly think of now, whereas, yes, maybe in the future, we'll see these models collecting more context for you automatically. So again, the areas where you're seeing me move from like the little bit of warning trepidation to the green check mark and the growth emoji are kind of those advice, those comparison, those, event and recent news lookups. So that is all to say, hopefully, the next time you ask a question to your friend, your AI partner, your AI coworker, hopefully you'll give it a second thought. What exactly am I asking it to do? Am I asking for an opinion? Am I asking for something creative? Am I asking for it to cite reputable news? And hopefully with this framework to kind of think of these different categories, you'll be able to be a little bit more informed on, what exactly the output is you're looking at, whether it's trustworthy, when it will succeed, etc. So that's it for me. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Matt. That was really, really great. I think it's always important to keep in mind that these LLMs don't come with instruction manuals. We kind of go in thinking I'm going to get every single answer that I ever wanted out of these things, and it's important to keep in mind that they are not the sources of all truth, and that some answers are more reliable than others. So always really helpful to know what sorts of answers are more trustworthy than others, and especially as communications professionals, what sorts of things we're going to go in expecting more reliable answers from. So thanks a lot. That was really, really informative. Next, we have Rob Davis from MSL Group. Actually, really, really good segue, because he has a lot of really apropos information kind of about how we're going to get that sort of information into those chatbots with sort of that GEO sort of generative engine optimization and getting our information that we want from our brands into those search engine results. I think Rob has a lot of good insight into kind of landing our brands and our clients where we want them to be in those search engine large language model results. Rob, why don't you take it away?
Great, thanks, Billy. Appreciate that. Yeah, this is one of the most fascinating spaces to me right now, and there's so many different ways to look at it. You'll have to excuse me. I'm from New Jersey. I talk with my hands. Don't be distracted. There are a lot of different ways to think about what you've been hearing so far this afternoon. So when I'm talking to clients, there are kind of two questions that I ask them to think about when it comes to AI. The first one is the fun one. What can our brand do with AI? So that's all the ways that you can use AI to enhance, to increase effectivity, productivity. The other one is not so much fun. And that is, what is AI doing to your brand? And there are a lot of places in the market today where we cannot control the effects of AI. And one of those that is most visible to us is what's happening in the digital discoverability landscape, specifically around the search areas that we've kind of been talking a little bit about today. So everybody knows what a search engine results page has looked like before the era of AI and AI overviews. Kind of been the same for 35 years or so. Everyone's fighting to get into the top 10. Everyone wants the top slot. If you don't get the top slot, you can spend a little money on SEM and buy your way there. And there's a little bit of user agency involved in this, where we rely on the user to make a choice about picking the link that they want to follow. And hopefully that link comes to the website of one of our clients. That's all gone out the window. So what we're seeing now with the answer engines is a removal of that need for user agency, a removal of that need for decision. The answer engine's goal is not to give you a list of choices. The answer engine's goal is to give you an answer. So we're replacing links to what is hopefully reliable information with how an LLM interprets the data that it's finding and presents it back to you. So all well and good. We're moving from list of links to narrative, but there's more happening that we need to think about. First of all, this is not by any means something that is just happening with search-oriented companies. Instagram and TikTok both have enacted text AI overviews within their own interfaces. Instagram draws from the internet broadly. TikTok draws information from other TikToks, which frankly scares me. I also question whether any TikTok user really wants paragraphs of text at the top of their feed, but we'll see how this works out. Point being, this is not something that is just Google related. This is something that is not just with ChatGPT and Claude and the other LLMs we've been talking about. It's coming universal. And the big change here is that consumer behavior that we've kind of built an entire ecosystem around, which is consumer has a question, consumer asks that question, gets a search answer, gets the search engine results page, chooses a link, goes to a brand website. On an average right now, 60% of straight up traditional Google searches, and I think the number is actually a little higher than that, do not earn a click. And there's data that shows that 35% of the clicks that do happen actually go to other Google properties like YouTube. So already this notion that search is a benevolent driver of traffic is something that the search engines have been going after for about 10 years now. It doesn't do a search company's business any good if the user leaves the page. So when we look at what's going on with the answer engines, they're kind of doubling down on this. They don't want the consumer to lead. So by giving the consumer a narrative answer, it's a way to capture the click, avoid the click out. Great for the search engine, not really great for the client who is now not getting that click to their content. And this is where we're going to start to see how this is affecting earned in particular. So when we look at what's happening here, there's some great data that Tolbert put out a couple of months ago. It showed that the Google AI overviews are actually resulting in 96% fewer clicks. That's not 96% fewer overall. That's 96% of that 40-some% that was already going through. So when you hear people talking about LLMs being search killers, what they're talking about is actually them being traffic driver killers. The whole behavior is changing. And this is something that has come to be known as the zero-click world. Zero-click has been around as a phrase for a while in traditional search. All the LLMs are doubling down on this now. So when we look at what the reality of zero-click is, that most of the keywords and queries that are important to our clients are going to get very, very, very few clicks. So a pretty innocuous phrase like best detergent has a 78% zero-click number. That means of everybody in the world looking for, well, this is US data, everyone in the US looking for the best detergent, 22% of them are likely to click somewhere. 78% of them are just going to go by whatever the search engine, whatever the LLM gives them. And this is the crux of the issue right now. And the one thing that if you walk away from this portion of today's talk with anything that you remember, this is it. We are changing through the use of AI. We are changing search from a waypoint on our journey to information to the destination itself. And that has dramatic ramifications for marketers. It also has dramatic ramifications for PR professionals. And this is not a flash in the pan trend. For those of you who've been a little bit experimental over the last couple of months, you'll know that there are Chrome plugins, the Comet browser coming from Perplexity, some updates of the Opera browser that are building this agentic function into the browser itself. So the idea that you will glean information without ever having to go to a client's website or a press release or a news site, kind of important to us, that's where we're headed. That is what the end game is. So we've got to adapt and adapt quickly. When, sometimes I'll get into discussions with peers about, is this really important right now? There's a low volume of traffic going to these sites. It's incredibly important right now because we need to stake our claim to the space. And it comes down to this conundrum. If consumers are less likely to click a web page after they get an AI narrative answer, the content and context of that answer may be as important to your client, to the brand, as the content of their own website, because the consumer is not going to that website. So if the LLM gets it wrong, major ramifications for the entire communication cycle. So I look at it this way: optimization is out, influence is in. I'll tell you why I say that. I am not a fan of the AEO and GEO acronyms. I think optimization is trying to fix a future problem by looking through a lens of the past. And this is why. When we talk about optimization, we've been talking about presence. We've been talking about getting a brand a link on that top 10 list, whatever search engine we're looking at, right? Get the number 1, number 2 slot. That's what we optimize for. That's not enough. You can get a citation on ChatGPT or Perplexity and check a box and say, that's wonderful. I optimized to be there. What does that citation say? This is where PR needs to focus now, and that is on influence. Influence that impacts the content and context of the answer. I know of several brands that are having a terrible time getting the context right in the LLMs. They get citations galore, 200, 300, 400 citations. 90% of them say, yeah, that product's great, but here are 5 others that are better. If we're not fighting to influence what the LLMs are saying, we are losing the battle. Optimization, great. Super, if you're talking about traditional search, really not the point when you're talking about LLMs. Now, good news for us is that AI is inherently lazy. Yes, incredibly smart in terms of output, incredibly lazy in terms of crawling. So the easier you make it for your client's content to be understood by an LLM, the better chance you have of influencing those answers. So this is where earned and PR really come into play. We're seeing right now, this is not a client that I'm working on, so this is kind of a fair game for me to look at. Goalie sticks. You got a kid playing youth hockey. If you're playing hockey, what are the best goalie sticks? You would hope maybe if you're Warrior or Bauer that the sources that are being cited for information are your brands. Well, guess what? All of the LLMs don't totally trust brand content. This is an effort to be a little bit unbiased, an effort to try to be fair with quotes around fair. So what you're seeing is a lot of influence coming from earned sources. You're seeing them come from blogs. You're seeing them come from news sites, from TikTok, from Reddit, from YouTube. There are, if you sat down right now and said, Rob, what do I have to do to influence this? What are the 3 platforms I need to be on? You better have the best information you can on Wikipedia, Reddit, and YouTube, because that's what the LLMs are listening to right now. So the idea that you can have the best brand site in the world and change this answer, it helps, but it doesn't finish it. So from a PR point of view, this is a huge opportunity for us because this is what we do. This is earned media, and that is what is driving the answers right now. So you will see this. I love looking at Perplexity, which is where these slides are from, or excuse me, these screenshots, because Perplexity is very good at showing you the sources, sometimes 5 or 6, sometimes 25 or 26. No brand is being consulted by the LLM or content being consulted for the answer to who makes the best goalie stick. And I'm going to close on this note because there is a dark, dark, dark side to this. When you start looking for deep information that you may want to find news sites source for, you will find it. And you will look through and you will find many, 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 many sources, as this page says. But all of those publishers, those news companies that have spent money creating that content are not getting the clicks anymore because of zero click. So the LLMs are kind of eating the system that trains them. The idea that the consumer goes from answer engine to click on a news site is gone. So what we're starting to see now is the publishers making deals with who can and who can't use their intellectual property in the LLMs. And that's creating a dual system of have and have not publishers, some of whom have an impact on AI and some don't. So the path to that earned media that is so essential right now is getting twisted day by day. It is changing day by day. So to close, when we ask what is AI doing to your brand, it's defining brands for your clients, with or without their influence, and certainly not with their permission. Doing nothing leaves competitors and detractors to tell your story via AI. This is a crisis right now for a lot of brands, and I believe that PR holds the key to the solution. And that is that. Thanks.
Thanks, Rob. Wow. What's really jarring to me is the groups making deals with the LLMs and the folks that are taking their properties out of the training models. So you really do have news that is training those models and groups that don't have any data being referenced. So you really have some sources that are not being brought up in the citations at all. Shocking stuff. We do have some questions that were submitted. So I'd love to get your input across the panel. First question, so there was a survey done earlier on this year. The data says that only 38% of PR professionals reported having organizational AI use policies. I'm curious to hear from the panel, what does responsible AI adoption look like for small and mid-sized communications team without dedicated data or legal experts? Brendan, first, I'm curious to hear from you. If an organization doesn't have any sort of AI use policy, what does responsible adoption look like?
I think start small and commit to just trying something and doing it. I think a lot of the hesitancy is just, where do we start? And I think you just have to try and commit to doing it. And it's not so much of, we don't have an expert in place or we don't have buy-in for X, Y, or Z exec. It's just doing it. We've been lucky to have a leader in place who really believes in it and just said, we're going to do it. And who has kind of pushed a lot of our team into the deep end because she believes if we're not doing it, we're falling behind. And I think it's a matter of just trying that. So find a small task that's really annoying to you and try and find a way to automate that. Start there and then work your way up.
Yeah, that's helpful. So I'm curious on that note, there's a lot of skepticism because of, unpredictability and privacy especially. So what does the vetting process look like in that case, especially if there is no organizational policy?
Yeah, so for some of the tools that I mentioned, some we have enterprise accounts with, which adds a bit more privacy, but some we don't. And for those that we don't, we strip out a lot of our sensitive information and we'll, obviously we won't put in execs names, or we'll strip out, sensitive data, things of that sort. We'll make mock examples of things and create frameworks. You can try things like that. If you're worried about, private information, there's different templates that AI can create for you that you can then port over into your own systems. So there's ways to work around the privacy and data issue if you don't have an enterprise account where your data is secure.
That's helpful. Yeah, I like the idea of stripping out any proprietary information and submitting, maybe some analogous prompt that you can use to maybe answer the same sort of question. Another submission that we received, how do you find and deal with AI inaccuracies, hallucinations, and bias when deploying AI in business and mission critical tasks, besides being very careful and being on the lookout for these things? Whoever might have input to that sort of thing, maybe Matt, if you have any sort of
I can
insight.
I can touch on this one. So one of the approaches that we've explored quite a bit at Muckrag, right? So there's no 100% silver bullet to preventing hallucinations. After all, if you could detect that the model is hallucinating, well, then it wouldn't have hallucinated in the first place. So it's kind of like a chicken or the egg type thing. But one of the things that we found is that there's kind of strength in numbers, like a voting strategy. And of course, we at Muckrag are not the only people doing this. This is there's a lot of people in the kind of academic literature writing papers about this. But basically, to put it at a high level, like ask the system 3 times or ask 3 different systems. Hey, if you're especially if you're developing software, right? The way that we build software to interact with these AIs are through what's called an API, right? Basically, a little handshake, almost piece of code that our code can go get access to get answers coming from these models. Instead of just asking ChatGPT, why don't I ask ChatGPT and Anthropic Claude and Gemini and all these different options, and then only share a result when I see that 3 of the 4 or 4 of the 4 agree on the answer. That sort of a thing. That's a pretty common trick that people are using more. Of course, the other one I would say is turn web search on. Again, if you're building software, when you're building software, you have the ability to turn web search on and off. And I would highly encourage everyone to turn it on when truth and reliability matters. Now, of course, it's more expensive, but I think when truth and reality matters, it's worth it.
Yeah, definitely. The advice of just using more than one LLM to fact check is simple and makes a lot of sense. You can absolutely easily do that. Does anybody else have any thoughts on that, on ways to just double check for inaccuracies and hallucinations?
And I think one thing you can do to build on top of that is, from what Matt was saying, is start building some agents that do that comparison for you. So it doesn't necessarily have to add to your workload. Make the AI work for you as it tries to figure out what the AI is doing.
That's great too. We got another question here too. This person loved the view of the importance of influence versus the traditional view. What are some examples of brands and companies that have taken to the impact of influence on their brand? I don't know if we have any in the back pocket.
That don't have NDAs that I can talk about as well.
Right, exactly.
Here, I can just quickly.
Good one, Matt.
Well, I can just touch in because I'm representing Muckrag as a PR technology company, but we're also a brand, and we are focusing on this thing. So maybe there's a softball for you.
There you go. That's a great one. Here's another great question. Public relations focus is to build and maintain a positive public image for an organization, individual, or product by strategically managing communications relationships with various stakeholders. Today, fake news and fake users get amplified in social media. Bots troll, dominate, harassment, bullying, rage baiting. Algorithms become manipulative and addictive. What is the risk of fake PR, and what is it doing to your brand? How do we defend against that?
I mean, it's not even a risk; it's a reality, right?
Right.
I mean, it's out there, but it's not. That's nothing new, right? I mean, that's been happening pre-digital. It's been happening from the early days of social. The good news, bad news. Bad news is it's easier to create it. The good news is it's easier to find it. Sometimes using the same tools that are used to create it. But that kind of ties into what I was talking about the influence piece, because, egregious things, you might be able to get a platform to take things down, but for the most part, you've got to fight it. And that's become the role of PR, not that it hasn't always been to some extent, but that has become one of the major factors of digital PR right now, is that we have got to be fighting that. So if we're not deploying AI to find, assess, analyze, and combat kind of missing the boat. So again, I think there's not so much like I need to hire 50 people to do this. It's I need to be smart with agents and technology and get on top of the game of finding, reacting, and combating.
I was going to, say Rob kind of answered it, and then we actually just got one that I think a question that ties to this. If you wanted to read this one, or I can read it. Is there a simple step-by-step a layperson get their product highlighted in AI answer? And I think it ties to the same thing I was going to say almost, and Rob highlighted the earned media portion. I think AI seems to value earned media right now more so than other sources. And I think as PR people, we're storytellers. So, we found value at Yahoo in getting loud and telling our story. And we've turned up the volume doing that. And, obviously brands of different sizes have different success in doing that, but utilize your ability to tell stories and find ways to get your story out via earned. AI seems to value that. And another way we're trying to do that as well. Fixing sources like Wikipedia, it's pulling from sources like that. We found that ours was a bit outdated, and so we're embarking on a project to update that and to make sure it reflects our true brand today, because it's pulling from those sources. And so make sure things like that are accurate, so that when it's pulling from those sources, that it's pulling from the way you want your brand represented. And I think AI will do the work to find the accurate information if you've done it on the front end.
Yeah, that's great. Going out and getting that earned media and I think that making sure that information is represented accurately elsewhere on the web is also an important note.
And I would add a layer on top of that too, Brendan. I know you're doing, because I've seen some of the work, which is focusing on structured content, whether it's your own content or third-party content. What I mentioned about AI being lazy, right? The LLMs love FAQs, they love Q&As, they love schema code. Feed the answer to the machine, and you combine that with everything that Brendan just said about having the right content, and you're giving yourself a much better chance of having that influence you need, rather than just the optimization for appearance.
Absolutely. I think we have time for just one more quick question. This one I think could be good for Matt Dugan. So at the moment, only 42% of PR pros use AI for strategy and planning. I say only, that might be a low number or a high number. How do you see that number evolving into execution of higher level strategic work? Do you think that's high? Do you think that's low? Do you think that AI could evolve into higher level strategic work more so in the future?
Yeah, one of the things that's top of my mind is something that actually Brendan touched on too, which is, I think Brendan said something like, we can use it for scale, but we still have to steer the ship ourselves. Sorry, I'm paraphrasing Brendan. But I do agree with that. I think probably if I were to poll the other 52% or whatever, of the people who aren't using it for strategy, I would guess that a frequent pain point is just like, it's honestly either impossible or at best very, very annoying to tell the AI all the context it would need to ever give a successful strategy. I mean, think of like somebody in a role like Brendan is, like, what is all the stuff that's in Brendan's head that he has to think about in order to do his job successfully? Like, it's painful to input all of that into these AI systems. So I think, like, what I see, if I were to make a prediction, I would say people are doing kind of like smaller scale strategy things, like, a strategy for today, or a strategy for the week, or a strategy for this one person, where it's actually a bite-sized piece of context that I could type out to the system. In the future, though, I really do believe we're going to see these systems more connected with more parts of our sort of work ecosystem. I mean, look at tools like Google. I mean, if you're a company that uses Google for email and documents and everything, I mean, they've got all that data. So at some point, we're going to see these systems that kind of do have all that context. But for now, the split sort of does make sense to me.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, yeah, to properly implement a strategy, a business strategy, you would need so much context that to type into that little 1-inch box on ChatGPT.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. We are at the top of the hour. I just want to thank our panelists, Matt Dugan, Rob Davis, Brendan Lee. You guys gave brilliant presentations, really, really helpful stuff from different corners of the communications universe. Really, really brilliant stuff. Thank you so much. I hope that our audience got something out of it. For more information on the Applied AI Association, go to AAIA.global.com. Thank you again. I appreciate all of your time. My name is Billy Lewis. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye, everyone.